In 1977, the Royal Dutch airliner KLM 4805 was landing in Tenerife, collided with Pan Am 1736 at the runway. This was one of the most horrific civil aviation accident. It killed 583 people and only 61 people could be rescued from the island of Tenerife at the Los Rodeos airport. What happened? It can teach us a lot of things. Captain Mendoza of KLM was the chief instructor for KLM and was to issue licenses to the pilots. He had over 11,700 flight hours. He was one of the most experienced and one of the best pilots in KLM. Both of the flights were destined for Gran Canaries Airport. However, due to a terrorist incident, the flight were reverted to Tenerife, at the time Los Rodeos Airport. They both were wetting. It was foggy. The visibility was very, very low. Captain Mendoza and first flight officer Klaas Meros and flight engineer William Scruder were at the flight. They were trying to communicate with the ATC, air traffic control, and trying to get the permission for takeoff. The captain was convinced that it was time for takeoff. The first flight officer, tried to contact the ATC, and even though they spoke about takeoff, but they did not give the clearance for takeoff. The Pan Am flights were still on the runway. They were waiting for the clearance as well. While the captain started moving the flight on the runway, the flight engineer, William Scruder, he said that Pan Am might be still on the runway. He tried to get the clarification. He did not get. He, however, did not oppose, similarly like flight officer, in a strong manner. The speed of KLM flight was too much when they spotted Pan Am on the runway. It was too late. They collided. Entire crew and passengers of KLM flight died that day. Only 61 passengers from Pan Am from the front side could be rescued in the Tenerife. This accident speaks volume about the work culture. After the investigation, the KLM did acknowledge the fault of their own crew. There are so many rules that were changed after that incident. The cockpit regulations were changed. So many more trainings were introduced. But this talks a lot about things. This talks about psychological safety, of course, because both of the flight officer and the flight engineer were not psychologically safe enough to stop their captain from taking the decision that he was taking. However, there is something else also very important, an Andon light. An Andon light is something which was introduced by Toyota in the manufacturing lines. An Andon light is a kind of an alarm light which talks about the severity of the problem. It's a working agreement. If the light is green, that means every process is smooth. If the light is amber, that means there is a problem and they are still trying to find out what the problem is, what is the cause of it. If it is red, that means there is something broken, the assembly line has been stopped, and a supervisor must visit the Gamba or the workplace to solve the problem. Now this to talk about two things. One is to create that awareness that there is a problem. The second is to spread the leadership. Everybody is a leader because anyone can actually pull their non-light and stop the assembly and stop the function, stop the work when there is something wrong. You need not to lose crucial time to ask your supervisor whether that needs to be stopped or not, because that might be too late. Now, the Andon Light is a representation of a working culture that you need to install in your organization, in your team. You might not work in an industry which can cause fatal injuries, which can cause loss of lives. But still, your industry might lose time, money, reputation, and so much more. So in an emergency situation, you need to have a working culture, something similarly, something like Andon Lights. Now, this Andon Lights this Andon Lights can be drafted according to the team's need, according to how the team wants. Do they need light? However they want to respond to the changes. However, there needs to be a contract, there needs to be an agreement between the team which talks about such emergency situation, which talks about how to respond to this emergency situation. It talks about taking leadership when it is needed. And the leadership is not only with the manager of the team, the leadership is with everyone in the team who can take the responsibility to make changes, to ensure that the problems that we are facing, which is an emergency situation, can be resolved quickly with a prompt thinking, with the people coming over at the place and solve it. Obviously, we are in a virtual environment now where Gamba might not mean the same thing that it uses in Lean. However, if we are working in a virtual environment, it could be a same room, same place where you all come together to discuss what can be done as a team to move forward. The Andon Light could be a simple group chat. It can be anything, whatever the team feels. But there has to be some agreement drafted in your backlog with the team's backlog, which talks about the things that we need to do in case of such situations. Had there been such an agreement, had there been such training for the crew at that point day on March 27, 1977, so many lives could have been saved. It's not too late. If you are still not following any protocols, if you're still not following, I'm not talking about only aviation industry, I'm talking about software management, I'm talking about software industry as well. I'm talking about marketing office as well. I'm talking about web development offices as well. I'm talking about every industry, every workplace that you have where you work together as a team, you deliver something with it as a team. You need a culture of Andon Light where you know what to do in case of emergency. You know everybody is a leader, everybody can take their accountability and responsibility of making things better. You can report error as early as possible so that you can minimize the loss. If you have to fail fast enough so that you do have the time to recover. So this culture of Andon Light can give you that strength. It can give you that kind of psychological safety that you're looking for. Remember, psychological safety is not just a word. It takes a lot of effort to create psychological safety in your environment. I hope that clarifies. I hope that helps. If you like this content, please like and subscribe and put your comments down below in the comment section, and I will see you soon.